Jeff sits in his living room at 2 a.m., credit card in hand, staring at another dating app upgrade screen. He's 62, divorced, and desperate. This month alone, $3,000 on dating platforms, 0 real connections. Here's what Jeff doesn't see. Every swipe broadcasts one thing to women: desperation. And desperation kills attraction faster than anything else. Men over 60 make 15 specific mistakes. These aren't just dating errors, they're psychological traps that cost thousands and destroy self-worth. Today, we're breaking down the hidden signals that sabotage you before you even meet someone. The 5 money trap mistakes. Let's start with the most expensive category: the money traps that drain your bank account. Mistake number 1, throwing money at women immediately. You meet someone online. Within the first conversation, you're offering dinner, trips, even bills. This isn't generosity. It's signaling that your money matters more than your personality. The psychology here is brutal. When you lead with your wallet, you're telling women you don't trust your natural charm. They read this instantly. Mistake 2, competing with younger men through spending. You see a 35-year-old taking women to coffee, so you book expensive restaurants and weekend trips. This backfires completely. You're not showing value. You're showing insecurity about your age. Research proves something shocking. Women over 50 prefer men confident enough to suggest modest first dates. Expensive venues scream that you're trying too hard. Mistake 3, using gifts to fix your age. Flowers on date 1, jewelry after 3 dates, electronics because you think younger guys have tech advantages. Each gift screams, "I'm not enough on my own." Here's the truth that hurts. When you compensate with gifts, you train women to see you as a wallet, not a partner. And wallets get emptied. But wait, it gets worse. Mistake 4, international investment dating. Jeff discovered this trap the hard way. $8,000 in 3 months, flying to Colombia and Mexico, convinced younger foreign women would appreciate an older American man. What did he find? Professionals who extracted money while giving just enough attention to keep him investing. The psychology behind international obsession reveals deep insecurity. When you can't attract women locally, the problem isn't geography, it's your approach. Mistake 5, subscription addiction to premium features. Jeff had premium accounts on 7 platforms, boost features, super likes, read receipts. Monthly cost? Over $400. Results? The same lack of connections. This addiction reveals something darker. You're treating dating like a numbers game instead of connection. More features won't fix attraction problems. Let's look at Jeff's complete damage. 3 months of desperate dating. Premium subscriptions, international trips, expensive dates, gifts for strangers. Total cost, $8,000. Real connections, 0. The pattern here is attachment anxiety driving financial compensation. When you're anxious about your worth, you try to purchase security. But security can't be bought. It has to be built through confidence. And here's what makes this tragic. Every dollar spent from desperation decreases your attractiveness. Women sense when generosity comes from abundance versus fear. Fear-based generosity feels manipulative, even with good intentions. Research confirms this. Men over 60 who lead with money report lower relationship satisfaction and higher exploitation rates. You're not buying affection, you're buying performance. Jeff's wake-up call came brutal. A woman he'd dated 6 weeks asked him to pay her rent. He'd already bought her a phone, covered every dinner, paid for weekend trips. When he hesitated about rent, she vanished. That's when reality hit. He wasn't dating. He was being harvested. The money trap mistakes stem from one error: believing financial resources substitute for emotional connection. They don't. Money gets attention, not attraction. And attraction creates lasting relationships. Think about your last 3 months. How much did you spend trying to buy interest? Premium features, expensive dates, gifts for women you barely knew? Here's your first reality check. Every dollar spent from desperation sends the wrong signal. You're advertising insecurity, not stability. Women over 50 have seen this pattern countless times. They know the difference between generous men and desperate ones. Generous men give from abundance. Desperate men give from fear. The question that changes everything: are you investing in connection or compensating for insecurity? Because compensation never works. It just attracts the wrong people for the wrong reasons. The 5 validation hunger mistakes. The money traps cost thousands, but validation hunger mistakes are more dangerous. They reveal emotional starvation that repels women instantly. Mistake 6, bragging about wealth in your profile. Your dating bio mentions your house, retirement account, investment portfolio. You think this shows stability. What it actually shows: you believe your worth comes from your net worth. Jeff's original profile read like a financial statement: home ownership, travel budget, retirement security. He thought women wanted transparency. What women want is emotional availability. When you lead with assets, you attract gold diggers. Mistake 7. Rushing relationship timelines. Second date, you're talking about meeting her kids. Third date, discussing moving in. By week 2, you're planning Christmas together. This isn't romance. It's attachment anxiety in overdrive. You're so hungry for connection that you try locking down commitment before building attraction. Women experience this as pressure, not passion. The psychology here is fascinating. Men over 60 mistake intensity for intimacy, but real intimacy develops slowly through shared experiences. When you rush timelines, you signal that you're more interested in having someone than knowing someone. Mistake 8. Tolerating obvious red flags for female attention. She cancels last minute, only contacts you when she needs something, claims exclusivity while clearly seeing others. But you accept it, because any attention beats no attention. This is where validation hunger becomes self-destructive. You're so grateful for female interest that you accept treatment you'd never tolerate from friends. Your standards disappear because your self-worth vanished. Here's what's really happening. You're trading dignity for crumbs of attention. Mistake 9. Arguing politics to show intelligence. You post political rants on dating apps, argue with women about feminism or social issues. You think passionate debate shows conviction. What it shows: you need to dominate conversations more than connect. Jeff fell into this trap repeatedly. He'd start political arguments in messages, thinking it demonstrated strong character. What it demonstrated was his need to be right instead of attractive. Women don't want to debate strangers. They want to connect with potential partners. Mistake 10. Performing happiness on social media. You change relationship status after 3 dates, post couple photos after 2 weeks, write long captions about finding love again. This isn't sharing joy. It's performing for validation. Research reveals something shocking about validation hunger in men over 60. Loneliness creates cognitive blind spots. When you're starved for connection, judgment becomes compromised. You make decisions based on getting attention rather than building relationships. The surprising finding? Men over 60 show higher attachment anxiety than any other demographic, higher than men in their 20s, higher than women of any age. This anxiety drives desperate behaviors that sabotage connections. Jeff's validation hunger showed everywhere. Multiple texts without responses, liking every social media post, agreeing with opinions he actually disagreed with. He was performing perfect boyfriend before even dating anyone. The pattern is clear. When you're hungry for validation, you compromise your authentic self for female approval. But approval gained through performance isn't real. It's conditional acceptance based on a false version of yourself. Women sense this performance immediately. Authentic confidence feels different than desperate approval seeking. Confident men have opinions they'll defend. Desperate men have opinions they'll change for attention. Think about your recent interactions. Are you stating your actual opinions or saying what you think women want to hear? The validation hunger mistakes stem from one core issue: believing female attention validates your worth as a man. It doesn't. Your worth exists independently of external validation. When you understand this, you stop performing and start connecting. And connection creates lasting attraction. But there's an even deeper layer of mistakes that reveal your darkest fears about aging. The 3 control and insecurity mistakes. Now we reach the most revealing category: control and insecurity mistakes that expose your deepest fears about aging and dating. Mistake 11. Age gap obsession is masculinity proof. You're 62 but only pursue women under 40. You tell yourself this proves your vitality. What it actually proves: your inability to accept your life stage. Jeff exclusively targeted women in their 30s and early 40s. His reasoning: I'm young at heart, but here's the brutal psychology. Age gap obsession isn't about being young at heart. It's about ego protection. You avoid women your age because they remind you of mortality. Research on this pattern is devastating. Men who exclusively pursue significantly younger women report higher rejection rates, more financial exploitation, and relationship failure. You're not accessing youth. You're accessing a marketplace where you're automatically disadvantaged. Women in their 30s have different goals, energy levels, cultural references. When you insist on age-inappropriate targets, you set yourself up for incompatibility. But the deeper issue? What this reveals about self-acceptance. Think about it. Why do you need a 35-year-old to validate your attractiveness? Mistake 12. Controlling behavior disguised as protection. You want to know where she is constantly. You offer unsolicited advice about her finances, job, family. You think this shows care and wisdom. What it shows? Your need to control outcomes because you don't trust natural relationship development. Jeff exhibited this pattern constantly. He'd text women throughout workdays asking about schedules. He'd offer help with decisions they never requested help making. He'd get frustrated when women maintained independence he perceived as rejection. This controlling behavior stems from deep insecurity about your relationship value. When you don't believe you're inherently attractive, you try making yourself indispensable through management and oversight. But healthy women don't want managers, they want partners. The psychology reveals something crucial about male aging anxiety. Many men over 60 struggle with feeling irrelevant in youth-focused culture. This irrelevance fear drives attempts to control relationships as significance maintenance. But control kills attraction faster than almost anything else. Mistake 13. Refusing age-appropriate partners for ego protection. Women your age are too set in their ways. Women over 55 are past their prime. Women with adult children are too complicated. These aren't preferences. They're defense mechanisms against facing your aging process. Jeff rejected every woman over 50 who showed interest. His explanations were always about their limitations, never his fears. But the pattern revealed his core issue. He couldn't accept his life stage, so he couldn't accept women who reflected it back. Here's where Jeff's transformation began. After the rent incident, he started recognizing desperation patterns. International trips, expensive gifts, age gap obsession, controlling behavior. All stemmed from the same source. Terror of being alone combined with inability to accept his authentic self. The clinical breakdown reveals how mortality fear drives poor dating choices. When you're unconsciously battling aging, you make relationship decisions based on ego protection rather than compatibility. You're not seeking partnership. You're seeking validation that you're still young and vital. The polarizing truth most won't discuss? The majority of men over 60 are emotionally unprepared for modern dating. Decades of traditional relationship structures didn't teach emotional intelligence, vulnerability, or authentic communication. When thrust into contemporary dating culture, they default to control, financial compensation, and ego protection. These control and insecurity mistakes connect to the same psychological core: inability to accept your current life stage while maintaining confidence in your inherent worth. Until you resolve this internal conflict, every dating interaction becomes a battle against reality rather than opportunity for genuine connection. And genuine connection requires accepting both yourself and potential partners exactly as you are right now. But the most damaging behaviors are still coming. Communication catastrophes that destroy attraction before it begins. The 2 communication catastrophes. The final category reveals the most damaging behaviors. Communication catastrophes that destroy attraction before it even begins. Mistake 14. Trauma dumping about ex-wives and past relationships. First date conversation. Your divorce details, custody battles, financial settlements, how your ex-wife took everything. You think this builds intimacy through vulnerability. What it builds is immediate discomfort and red flags. Jeff's dating conversations always circled back to his ex-wife, how she was controlling, how she didn't appreciate him, how the divorce destroyed his finances. He thought he was explaining his situation. What he was actually doing? Demonstrating that he wasn't emotionally ready to date anyone new. Here's the psychological reality. When you lead conversations with past relationship trauma, you're unconsciously asking new women to fix old wounds. That's not dating. That's unpaid therapy. Women recognize this immediately and run from it. Research shows men over 60 are significantly more likely to trauma dump on first dates than any other demographic. This stems from social isolation and lack of emotional processing skills. But dumping decades of unresolved relationship issues on strangers isn't vulnerability. It's emotional vomiting. Healthy vulnerability shares current feelings and experiences. Trauma dumping rehashes past grievances and expects sympathy. One builds connection, the other creates obligation. Women can tell the difference instantly. Think about your last first date. How How much time did you spend talking about your ex versus learning about her? Mistake 15. Sexual desperation masked as romantic interest. You steer conversations toward physical topics too quickly. You make comments about her appearance that feel invasive rather than complimentary. You suggest intimate activities before building emotional connection. This isn't about being a red-blooded male. This is about desperation creating poor judgment about timing and appropriateness. Sexual interest expressed too early signals that you're more interested in physical release than getting to know her as a person. Jeff's messages often contained sexual undertones disguised as compliments. "You must work out a lot" became his standard opening line. He thought he was showing appreciation for women's bodies. What he was showing? Physical attraction was his primary interest. Here's why these mistakes compound into what researchers call the desperation spiral effect. Each desperate behavior reinforces the others. Financial generosity leads to validation hunger. Validation hunger leads to controlling behavior. Controlling behavior leads to communication catastrophes. Each mistake makes the next one more likely. The research revelation that changes everything? Men over 60 consistently score lowest in emotional intelligence within dating contexts, lower than men in their 20s who have less life experience, lower than women of any age group. This emotional intelligence deficit drives every single mistake we've discussed. The hard truth nobody wants to acknowledge? These patterns predict financial and emotional exploitation with devastating accuracy. Women who target older men for financial gain can identify these desperation signals instantly. Every mistake becomes a vulnerability they can exploit. Jeff's final reality check came when he calculated his annual dating expenses: premium subscriptions, international travel, gifts, expensive dinners, financial loans never repaid. Total cost, over $15,000. Meaningful relationships formed? Zero. But the financial cost wasn't the real damage. The real damage was to his self-worth. Every failed interaction reinforced his belief that he wasn't attractive enough, young enough, or interesting enough to create genuine connections. The desperation spiral had become a self-fulfilling prophecy. The 15 mistakes all stem from the same psychological source. Believing external compensation can substitute for internal confidence, whether that compensation is financial, emotional, or behavioral. It signals the same thing to potential partners. You don't believe you're enough as you are. And if you don't believe you're enough, why should anyone else? Your wake-up call and survival plan. The research is clear. Desperation costs men over 60 an average of $15,000 annually in dating expenses, with zero correlation to relationship success. But here's your wake-up call. Every mistake we've covered is reversible through self-awareness and emotional intelligence development. Subscribe for the follow-up video on building genuine attraction after 60 without desperation signals.